Before we descend into the shadows of 1973 and the covert operations that changed history, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. We are uncovering the files they tried to keep buried. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a briefing. The silence in the briefing room in Tel Aviv was heavy, a physical weight that pressed down on the shoulders of the 6 men sitting around the wooden table. It was the kind of silence that follows a funeral or the moment before a storm breaks. Cigarette smoke hung in the air, a blue haze trapped by the closed blinds that shut out the relentless Mediterranean sun. It was early 1973. The world outside was moving on, the disco era was dawning, and the Cold War was freezing over. But in this room, time had stopped in September of the previous year. Ari, a veteran field officer with eyes that had seen too much and revealed too little, tapped his pen against a manila folder. He didn't need to open it to know what was inside. The images were burned into his retinas. The Munich Olympics, the tragedy, the loss of the 11. It wasn't just a failure of security, it was a wound to the national soul. The feeling of vulnerability was something the Institute, Mossad, could not tolerate. At the head of the table stood the director. He was a man of few words, his face etched with the lines of a map drawn in conflict. He didn't speak of revenge. Revenge was an emotional word, messy and undisciplined. He spoke of restoring deterrence. He spoke of balancing the ledger. The targets, the director said, his voice a low rumble, are not hiding in caves. They are not sleeping in tents in the desert. They are living like kings in the Paris of the Middle East. He walked to a map pinned to the wall. His finger landed on a city on the coast of Lebanon. Beirut, he said. The men around the table shifted. Beirut was not a shadow world, it was a playground. In 1973, it was a city of casinos, luxury hotels, banking secrecy, and high-stakes diplomacy. It was where East met West, where spies from the CIA, the KGB, MI6, and the Deuxième Bureau drank champagne at the St. George Hotel. It was also the new headquarters for the organizations that had orchestrated the Munich disaster. They feel safe there, the director continued. They believe the border protects them. They believe the sovereignty of Lebanon protects them. They believe we do not have the reach. He looked at Ari. We are going to show them they are wrong. We are going to walk into their homes, into the heart of their sanctuary, and we are going to neutralize the threat. Ari opened the folder. The photos were grainy surveillance shots taken from telephoto lenses. 3 faces. The masterminds. They were intelligent, sophisticated men who planned operations over espresso and signed death warrants with fountain pens. This is not a surgical strike from the air, the director said. The collateral risks are too high. We cannot drop a bomb on a residential apartment building in the Verdun district. We need to go in on the ground, face to face. The Verdun district? One of the younger operatives, a tech specialist named Danny, asked. That's the most upscale neighborhood in Beirut. It's crawling with police, private security, and diplomatic guards. How do we get a strike team in there without starting a war? The director allowed a grim, humorless smile to touch his lips. We will not go in as soldiers. We will not go in as conquerors. We will go in as ghosts. And when we are seen, we will be the last thing they expect. Ari studied the map of the Verdun district. He saw the challenge immediately. It was a fortress of urbanity, high-rise buildings, narrow streets, vigilant neighbors. A military raid would be a disaster. They needed a disguise. They needed a cover so audacious, so culturally integrated, that no one would dare question it until it was too late. We have a plan, the director said. Operation Spring of Youth. But the insertion is the key. If we are stopped at a checkpoint, if a patrol car grows suspicious, the mission fails before it begins. We need to blend into the fabric of the city. Ari looked at the target photos again. Beirut is a city of sects, he murmured. Sunni, Shia, Druze, Christian. Exactly, the director nodded. And in the Christian quarters, the clergy are untouchable. They move freely. They are respected. No police officer stops a priest to search his robes. The room went silent again as the implication sank in. Priests? Danny asked, arching an eyebrow. And civilians, the director added. Tourists. But the spearhead? the team that secures the perimeter. You will be men of the cloth. Ari closed the folder. The audacity of it was terrifying. It was also brilliant. To storm the headquarters of their enemies dressed in the vestments of peace was a psychological weapon as much as a tactical one. It was a message. We can be anyone. We can be anywhere. Get your teams ready, the director said, dismissing them. You leave for training at the naval base tonight. You have 3 weeks to learn how to walk, talk, and move like you belong in a cathedral, while carrying enough firepower to take down a fortress. As Ari walked out into the blinding Tel Aviv sun, he lit a cigarette. The weight of the mission settled onto him. They were going to Beirut. They were going into the lion's den, armed with Uzi submachine guns hidden under religious robes. It was a mission that would either restore their nation's deterrence or end in a catastrophe that would leave them all stranded on foreign soil. There was no turning back. The ledger had to be balanced. The preparation phase began in a secluded compound on the Israeli coast, far from prying eyes. The mission was not just a Mossad operation, it was a joint task force. The intelligence would come from the Institute, but the muscle, the men who would pull the triggers and breach the doors, would come from the Sayeret Matkal, the elite General Staff Reconnaissance Unit. Ari was the architect of the intelligence side. His job was to build the picture of Beirut so complete that the commandos could walk through it blindfolded. He spent his days and nights in a windowless room, surrounded by maps, blueprints, and transcripts of intercepted calls. He wasn't working alone. His primary asset was a woman known only by her codename, Yael. Yael was already in Beirut. She was a warrior in the Mossad lexicon, a deep-cover operative living a fabricated life in the heart of the enemy capital. Yael's cover was perfect. She posed as an eccentric, wealthy writer, the kind of person who drifted through Beirut's high society, renting a luxury apartment in the very buildings where the targets lived. She was the eyes and ears on the ground. Ari waited for her transmissions every night. They came in bursts of coded data, relayed through a series of antennas and safehouses in Europe before reaching Tel Aviv. Target 1, Abu Yusuf, 3rd floor. Security detail rotates at 0800 and 2000 hours. 2 guards in the lobby, 1 in the stairwell. Target 2, Kamal Adwan, 2nd floor. Often hosts late-night meetings. Balcony faces the street. Target 3, Kamal Nasser, penthouse, the poet. Lives alone but keeps irregular hours. Ari pinned the details to the board. The targets were neighbors. They lived in 2 adjacent buildings on Rue Verdun. It was a convenient cluster, but it also meant the security was concentrated. A single gunshot would alert the entire block. We need the layout of the lobby. Ari spoke into the secure line, his voice distorted by encryption. I need to know the thickness of the doors, the type of locks. I'm working on it, Yael's voice came back, crackling with static. I've befriended the concierge. I'm complaining about the noise from the street. I've asked to see the other layouts for a potential friend moving in. Be careful, Yael. Don't push too hard. The concierge loves me, Ari. I tip well. In Beirut, money opens more doors than keys. While Ari built the virtual city, the commandos were practicing the physical reality. They built a mock-up of the Rue Verdun apartments in the sand dunes. Night after night, they ran the assault. The priest element was the most difficult to refine. The disguises had to be convincing from a distance of 5 meters, but functional for combat. The robes were specially tailored by the technical department. They were heavy cotton blends, dark black, cut wide to conceal the bulk of the shortened Uzi submachine guns and tactical vests strapped to the commandos' chests. Ehud, the commander of the Sayeret team, was a man of intense focus. He wasn't playing a priest. He was playing a brunette woman for his part of the cover, while others in his team donned the clerical collars. The mix of disguises, tourists, women, priests, was designed to create cognitive dissonance. If a guard saw a group of military-aged men approaching, he would raise his rifle. If he saw a couple, or a priest walking with a woman, his brain would categorize them as safe for the crucial 2 seconds needed to close the distance. The robes are catching on the holsters. One of the commandos complained during a dry run. He tried to draw his weapon, but the fabric snagged. Fix it, Ehud snapped. Sew weights into the hem. Make it swing clear. If you fumble in Beirut, you don't come home. Ari watched the rehearsal from a nearby ridge. The team moved like water. They disembarked from the mock Zodiac boats, moved up the beach, transitioned to the waiting vehicles, large American sedans typical of Beirut taxis, and drove to the target site. The priests exited the car first. They walked with a measured, calm pace. No rushing. A priest does not run unless there is a fire. They approached the guards, instructors holding stopwatches, a wave of the hand, a nod. Then, in a blur of motion, the robes swept back, the weapons appeared, and the targets were neutralized. 3 seconds, Ari noted. Fast, but can they do it with a Lebanese police patrol watching? The psychological preparation was just as intense. They were studying the dialect of Lebanese Arabic, specifically the accent of the Christian neighborhoods. They learned the specific blessings used by Maronite clergy. Allah ma'ak, God be with you. Salama, peace. Ari sat with the team leaders later that night. There is a police station 2 blocks from the target, he pointed out on the map. We estimate a response time of 5 minutes once the noise starts. You have 20 minutes total on the ground. Any longer and the PLO reinforcements from the refugee camps will cut off your retreat to the beach. 20 minutes is a lifetime, Ehud said, cleaning his glasses. We'll be out in 15. And the extraction? Ari asked. The Navy will be waiting. But getting from the apartments back to the beach? That's the bottleneck. If the cars are disabled, we're on foot in hostile territory. Then don't let the cars get disabled, Ari said. The drivers are Mossad. They know the streets. They've been driving them in their heads for weeks. The planning was exhaustive, paranoid, and relentless. They accounted for every variable: a flat tire, a wandering dog, a late-night party, a power outage. But Ari knew that in the chaos of operation, plans evaporated. All that remained was instinct and the bond between the men. 1 week before the launch, the director called Ari into his office. The Prime Minister has signed the authorization, he said. The mission is a go, Operation Spring of Youth. Ari felt a chill. This was it. The massive machinery of the state was moving. Missile boats were fueling. Submarines were deploying to monitor the coast. And in a safe house in Beirut, Yael was watching the lights go out in the apartments of the men who would soon be visited by the ghosts of Munich. One more thing, the director said. If our people are captured, there is no negotiation. They know the protocol. Ari nodded. He knew. There were no extraction plans for prisoners. Beirut in April was intoxicating. The air smelled of jasmine, car exhaust, and the salty tang of the sea. It was a city of contradictions, a place where the muezzin's call to prayer mingled with the thump of disco bass lines from the clubs on Hamra Street. Ari arrived separately from the main force, traveling under a Canadian passport. He was the forward controller, the final failsafe on the ground before the commandos arrived. He checked into a modest hotel in the Akrafia district, the Christian heart of the city. It was safer here for a man with his profile, easier to blend in among the Francophone residents. He spent the first 2 days strictly adhering to his cover, a commercial insurance adjuster assessing shipping risks at the port. He walked the streets, drank coffee in the sidewalk cafes, and let the rhythm of the city seep into his bones. Beirut was beautiful, but Ari saw the fault lines. He saw the Palestinian refugee camps on the outskirts, sprawling cities within the city, governed by their own laws and protected by their own militias. He saw the phalangist checkpoints in the Christian areas, young men with assault rifles lounging on sandbags. The state of Lebanon was a delicate tapestry, held together by a thread that was rapidly fraying. On the 3rd night, he made contact with the local assets. These were not Israelis, but Lebanese drivers recruited by the Mossad. They were men who hated the presence of the foreign militias in their country and were willing to risk their lives to drive them out. They met in a garage in an industrial zone. The cars were there, huge Buicks and Plymouths, American steel that could smash through a roadblock if necessary. The engines are tuned, the lead driver, a man named Walid, said. He wiped grease from his hands with a rag. We strengthened the suspensions to handle the extra weight of your passengers. And the plates? Ari asked. Stolen from taxis in Tripoli 2 days ago. They won't be reported for another week. Ari inspected the vehicles. They looked used, dusty, unremarkable. Perfect. You know the route? I can drive it with my eyes closed, Walid said. Beach to Verdun. Verdun to beach. I know where the police sleep and where they take bribes. Tomorrow night, Ari said. Be at the landing zone at 2300. Flash the lights 3 times. Long, short, long. We will be there. Ari left the garage and took a circuitous route back to his hotel. He needed to verify the landing zone one last time. He drove a rented Fiat along the coastal road, the Corniche. The Mediterranean was black and restless to his left. He pulled over near the designated beach, the Ramlet Al Baida. It was a public beach, flanked by luxury hotels. During the day, it was crowded with swimmers and sunbathers. At night, it was a lover's lane. Cars were parked facing the sea, windows steamed up. This was a complication. Ari watched for an hour. The lovers were distracted, but they were witnesses. If a dozen heavily armed men stormed out of the surf, someone would scream. He noted the patrol patterns. A police jeep cruised by every hour, lazy and uninterested. The real danger wasn't the police. It was the Palestinian patrols that sometimes monitored the coast for exactly this kind of incursion. He drove back to the city center, his mind racing. They would need to clear the beach, or at least distract the eyes watching it. He stopped at a phone booth near the St. George Hotel. He dialed a number that rang in a safehouse in Europe, which would then relay the message to the command ship waiting just over the horizon in international waters. The sand is soft, he said, the code phrase for site inspected, but there are seagulls on the shore, civilians present. Understood, the voice on the other end replied. The wind will blow them away. Ari hung up. He didn't know exactly what that meant, and he didn't want to. His job was the layout, the cars, the timing. The Navy would handle the arrival. He went to meet Yael the next morning. They met in a crowded market, browsing for spices. It was the only safe way to talk. They are all home, Yael whispered, examining a bag of saffron. Target 1 and 2 are having a meeting tonight. High-level cadres. The lights were on until 3 a.m. Did you see the guards? 3 of them. Kalashnikovs. They sit in the lobby drinking tea. They are relaxed, Ari. They feel untouchable. Good, Ari said. Keep them relaxed. Ari, she paused, looking at him with intensity. The building. There are families there. Children. We know, Ari said, his voice hard. The orders are strict. Only the targets. We are not them. Make sure, she said, and then disappeared into the crowd. Ari walked back toward the sea. The sun was setting, casting a blood-red glow over the Mediterranean. In 12 hours, the water would be churning with the wake of Zodiac boats. The priests were coming to Beirut, and they were bringing a confession of fire. The night of April 9th was moonless. The sea was a dark, heaving expanse that swallowed the light. Far out in international waters, the Israeli missile boats idled, their engines humming low. On the decks, the commandos of Sayeret Matkal were gearing up. Ehud stood on the deck, the salt spray misting his face. He adjusted the wig on his head. It was itchy. He wore a woman's coat over his tactical vest and baggy trousers that concealed the weapons strapped to his legs. Next to him, his second-in-command, Muki, was adjusting his clerical collar. Muki looked the part, stern, bearded, with a gravitas that suited a priest. But beneath the cassock, his hand rested on the grip of a suppressed Uzi. Radio check, Ehud whispered. 5 by 5, the comms officer replied. The order came. Launch. The Zodiacs were lowered silently into the black water. The motors were special, silenced outboards that purred rather than roared. The teams piled in. There were 30 men in total for the main strike force, divided into sub-teams for the different targets. Other teams would hit targets elsewhere in the city and at the manufacturing plants, but the Verdun raid was the crown jewel. They moved toward the lights of Beirut. The city was a glittering strip on the horizon, growing larger with every minute. To the left, the casino lights. To the right, the airport beacon sweeping the sky. Ari was already at the beach. He sat in the passenger seat of the lead Buick, watching the dark water. Beside him, Walid tapped the steering wheel nervously. They are late, Walid muttered. They are on time, Ari said, checking his watch. The currents are strong tonight. Suddenly, shapes emerged from the gloom. Low, dark silhouettes riding the swell, the Zodiacs. They glided toward the sand, killing the engines at the last moment and letting the momentum carry them onto the beach. Ari flashed the headlights, long, short, long. A red light blinked back from the lead boat. The commandos vaulted out of the boats, dragging them up the sand. They moved with terrifying speed. Within seconds, they were at the seawall. The lovers in the parked cars barely noticed. One couple, distracted by the sudden movement, looked up to see a strange procession. A group of men and women, some dressed as priests, hurrying from the surf into waiting luxury cars. In the dark, it looked like a surreal late-night party or a wedding gone wrong. By the time they processed it, the commandos were inside the vehicles. "Go," Ehud ordered from the back seat of the Buick. He was shedding his wet wetsuit booties and pulling on civilian shoes. Walid gunned the engine. The three cars peeled away from the beach, merging onto the Corniche. "Welcome to Beirut," Ari said from the front seat. "Save the pleasantries," Ehud said, checking his makeup in the rearview mirror. It was a bizarre sight, a tough commando applying lipstick in a dim car. "How is the route?" "Clear," Ari said. "Police checkpoint at the lighthouse was unmanned 20 minutes ago." They drove through the city. The neon signs of nightclubs flashed past. Crazy Horse, the Venus. People were walking on the sidewalks, laughing, drunk on life. The commandos sat in tense silence, their weapons hidden, their eyes scanning every intersection. The priests sat by the windows. Mookie leaned back, looking every bit the weary cleric returning from a late service. They approached the police checkpoint near the entrance to the Verdun district. This was the first test. If the police stopped them, it would be a firefight. The barrier was down. A Lebanese gendarme stepped out of the booth, a cigarette dangling from his lip. He waved a flashlight beam across the windshield of the lead car. Walid slowed down, but didn't stop completely. He rolled down the window. "Good evening, officer," Walid said in flawless Lebanese Arabic. "Just taking the father home. It's been a long night at the diocese." The flashlight beam hit Mookie's face. Mookie didn't flinch. He raised his hand in a slow, blessed gesture. "Peace be upon you, my son." The gendarme looked at the priest, then at the woman, Ehud, next to him, who was looking down demurely. The combination, a local driver, a priest, a woman, registered as harmless. A family matter, perhaps, or church business. "Go on," the gendarme waved them through, lifting the barrier. "Drive safely." "Bless you," Mookie said. As the car accelerated away, the air in the vehicle rushed out in a collective exhale. "Nice acting, father," Ehud muttered. "I felt holy for a second," Mookie deadpanned. They turned onto Rue Verdun. The neighborhood was quieter here. High-rise apartment buildings loomed on both sides, their balconies dark. Streetlights cast pools of yellow light on the pavement. "Target ahead," Ari said, pointing to two buildings on the left. The ones with the marble facade. Walid pulled the car to the curb, 100 meters from the entrance. The other two cars pulled up behind. "Engine running," Ehud told Walid. "If we aren't back in 20 minutes, you leave. Do not wait for us." "I wait," Walid said firmly. Ehud didn't argue. He opened the door. The cool night air hit him. He adjusted his wig, checked the pistol in his purse, and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The priests followed, their robes swishing softly. From a distance, they looked like a group of friends walking home from a late dinner. A couple of priests, a few women, some men in suits. But under the robes, the safety catches were clicking off. The ghosts had arrived in Verdun. The walk from the cars to the apartment buildings was only 100 meters, but it felt like a march across a minefield. The street was disturbingly quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies the sound of a shoe scuffing against pavement or the distant bark of a stray dog. Ehud walked arm in arm with another commando disguised as a woman. They chatted softly, mimicking the cadence of a couple in conversation, though the words were operational checks. "Sector left clear," Ehud whispered, tilting his head as if laughing at a joke. "Sector right clear. No movement on the balconies," his partner replied, adjusting a silk scarf that hid an earpiece. Behind them walked Mookie and two other priests. They moved with a deliberate, unhurried gait. Their hands were tucked into the wide sleeves of their cassocks, gripping the cold steel of their Uzis. They looked serene, pillars of the community, but their eyes were darting from window to window, scanning for the glint of a sniper scope or the glow of a cigarette watcher. Ari stayed in the lead car, monitoring the radio frequencies. He had a scanner tuned to the Beirut police bands. So far, just static and routine chatter about traffic accidents and domestic disputes. The city was asleep, unaware that a surgical knife was about to cut into its heart. As the team approached the entrance of the first building, the Aviva building, they encountered the first layer of security. 2 guards were sitting in a sedan parked right in front of the lobby. They were drinking coffee, the interior light of the car illuminating their faces. They were PLO security, Fatah men. Ehud tightened his grip on his partner's arm. This was the moment of truth. If the guards challenged them before they got close, the element of surprise would vanish. The guards looked up. They saw 2 women and 3 priests approaching. They relaxed. In their worldview, this demographic profile was the definition of non-threatening. They didn't even reach for the AK-47s resting between their knees. Ehud and his partner walked right past the car, heading for the lobby door. The guards watched them go, perhaps admiring the women. Muki and the priests followed. As they came abreast of the car, Muki stopped. He turned to the window, smiling benevolently. "Excuse me, my son," Muki said in Arabic. "Is this the building where the Al-Najjar family lives?" The guard rolled down the window further, confused. "No Al-Najjar here, father. Keep moving." "Ah, my apologies," Muki said. He leaned in closer. In one fluid motion, the blessing turned into action. Muki's hand came out of the sleeve, not with a Bible, but with a suppressed pistol. Foot. The driver slumped forward. Simultaneously, the other priests engaged the passenger side. The glass shattered quietly, crumbling into the interior. The 2 guards were neutralized before they could even spill their coffee. "Clear," Muki whispered. Ehud was already at the lobby door. He pushed it open. It was unlocked. The team flooded inside, shedding the pretense of casual walkers. They moved with military precision now, securing the stairwell and the elevator. "Team Aleph, take the stairs. Team Bet, cover the lobby," Ehud ordered. They began the ascent. They weren't taking the elevator. It was a trap. If someone cut the power, they'd be entombed. They ran up the stairs, their soft-soled shoes making no sound on the marble. 3rd floor. Target, Abu Yusuf. The team stacked up outside the apartment door. It was a heavy wooden door, typical of high-end Beirut real estate. Ehud nodded to the breach man. He placed a small, shaped explosive charge on the lock mechanism. It was designed to blow the tumblers inward without bringing the whole building down. 3, 2, 1. A dull thump, like a heavy book dropped on a carpet. The door swung open. The commandos surged in. The apartment was dark, smelling of stale tobacco and cologne. "Room left, clear. Room right, clear." They swept through the living room. Papers were scattered on a desk, intelligence reports, maps of Israel, funding ledgers. A bedroom door opened. A man stepped out, blinking in the sudden light of the tactical flashlights. He was wearing pajamas. It was Abu Yusuf. He saw the silhouettes, men in black, weapons raised. For a split second, confusion registered on his face. He reached back into the room, perhaps for a weapon on his nightstand. "Don't," Ehud said in Hebrew. The commandos fired, controlled bursts. The target fell. From the adjacent room, a woman screamed. It was his wife. The commandos didn't engage her. They were here for the man. "Target 1 secure," Ehud reported into his radio. "Moving to target 2. But the silence was broken now. The scream had echoed through the building. Upstairs, in the penthouse, Kamal Nasser heard it. Down the hall, Kamal Adwan heard it. The element of total surprise was gone. Now, it was a race. On the street, Ari heard the muffled thump and the scream. He gripped the dashboard. "Walid, keep the engine revving," Ari said. "It's about to get loud." Suddenly, the lobby door of the adjacent building burst open. A guard ran out, firing an AK-47 into the air, shouting, "Yahud! Yahud! Jews! Jews!" The street erupted. Lights flickered on in the surrounding buildings. Shutters were thrown open. "Covering fire!" Muki shouted from the street level. The priests dropped to one knee, their robes splayed out on the pavement, and unleashed a barrage of Uzi fire at the guard, suppressing him. The tranquil procession had turned into a war zone, and the team was still 3 floors up with 2 more targets to go.